your host, Mystic Raven, and today I'm going to be discussing how to properly layer your AOEs. Now, first off, I'd like to say I do not use a buff bar. It's something I completely do not believe in. Okay? So if... One second. Okay, sorry about that. Brief moment here, real life stuff. And I record live, so everybody knows. But yeah, so I don't have a buff bar. I don't believe in a buff bar, and that's kind of one of the problems I have with certain builds, especially like the bubble build. They use all these buffs, and the one thing that they don't realize what they're doing is essentially lowering their DPS because they're using that spot for defensive purposes to keep their asses alive. So completely, I don't buy into that shit. So. The way I look at it, don't try to cheat the system. Work with the system, you'll get the better effects, and by knowing how to properly do things, you gain the more out of it. So when it comes to DPS, and I don't give a shit what class you are. I don't care if you're a sorcerer, if you're a dragon knight, if you're a templar, if you're a nightblade. I don't give a shit. Any class can layer AoEs. So first off, we're going to go into this through the skills, and I'm going to show you what I mean, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you examples. Okay, so usually depending on your class or your setup, you can have a multiple system. Now with this character specifically right here, I use a 5-5 switch between Night Mothers and Huntings. The reason being because I can take the Night Mothers, apply the AoE effect of Endless Hail, and crit the entire group. When that happens, I get the effect of physical penetration. When that happens, I'm maximizing out my DPS because when I switch over, I can go ahead and start my layer rotation. To do this properly, I use Deadly Cloak. So as you can see, it's dealing 2,470 physical damage to all nearby enemies every 3 seconds. Now, I know a lot of people are like, every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. Well, it's not a lot. It's only 2,007. Well, this is why we're layering it, because you can see the duration tick is 15 seconds. We add Hurricane to this, right? That's another 15 seconds for 888 every second. So these are two effects that are being simultaneously ticking at the same time. Now, when we add Streak, it doesn't really give us it doesn't add to that effect, but what that does is set up the rotation for Whirling Blades. Now, while as all of these are spamming through their 15-second rotation, that gives me 15 seconds to spam this. If you're spamming one ability or one AoE or just basically using Liquid Lightning, you're actually decreasing your DPS. And for PC players, I challenge you guys to go ahead and run the meter on this. You're not going to tell me anything new of the results, because I've been MMOing for 20 years. I played so many games. This is not a new concept for me. I've been doing this for as long as you can think of MMOs. So when you think of AoE damage, how you can layer the effects increases your DPS. So when you guys parse this, and I encourage you to, if you're on PC, check it out. You tell me what's up. Post below. I don't ever have a problem with this rotation or this setup. So as you guys can see, this is kind of where we're going to go at. And I'm just going to make sure my food buff's up. I'll just reapply it. But I definitely want to go into this and show you guys. Now, I'm not going to actually run my other, but I will put my other buff on. And of course, I came to Craglorn. I do a lot of Rothgar. But for everything, this is a great place to do this, because these mobs can kill you, right? They can just murder your ass if you ain't doing shit right. they'll just kill you. Now there are 2 weapons, and I do want to push this out. Put this out there. There are 2 weapons when you weave that will do AOE damage on the weave. That is the 2-handed sword and the lightning staff. So if you ever see people wielding the 2-handed sword on a back bar or a lightning staff on the back bar, that's because they're layering their AoEs. And that's a very effective method because when they put down the abilities or the derated abilities and they start weaving, they're actually able to push a lot more DPS out. So, and you add animation cancellation to that, you're getting a very nice effect. Okay, so we're going to start off with the bow. I'm going to proc this. Now, once this happens... Okay. And yes, I'm going to pick this up because I'm in Craglorn and this could be Nirncrux at any time. Okay, so we're going to go ahead again. Now as you guys can see, I try to keep them in the arrow's vicinity so it's getting a triple effect. Alright. Once again, I'm just always going to pick this up. I know it might be boring, but you know, I always tell people, be careful when you're going out for single targets. You can actually, if you spam one ability, like say you're using Liquid Lightning as one of your only AoEs, or you're using biting jabs or anything for your only AoE, you're decreasing so much DPS, it's ridiculous. When you inherently grab a buff bar, now for PvP, once again, all rules are out the window because you don't have to go, concentrate on AoE damage. But when you're in a dungeon, to clear mobs, and especially with bosses that have mobs, this is insanely important. Because me and my friends, we don't play the mechanic of chasing down grenades and throwing them at the oncoming zombies. We actually wait for the astronauts to come out, and we layer AoE, debuff them, and we just annihilate them that way. We don't fuck with that mechanic at all. Can we do that? Fuck yes, we can do that. Why? Because we're pushing out so much DPS by layering our AoEs. And if you're in a trial and if you're running through mobs and you don't know how to layer AoE, then you shouldn't even fucking be in a trial. Because seriously, and some of these players out there that's saying they know how to fucking set up for trials and shit, listen, I've ran raids in EverQuest 2, Rift, World of Warcraft, Vanguard. So when you want to talk about raids or you want to talk about group content and you're going to say Mystic don't know his shit, you're full of shit. Because honestly, I challenge anybody to go ahead and parse this shit and tell me what you come up with, okay? Now, if they get ahead of the thing, you can always kite stuff back or the tank will do that for you. I always like these things because they just bury themselves to get out of my DPS range. Alright. I love my shit. Honestly, guys, I would not try to steer you guys wrong, I promise. I'm always trying to come out with anything, to make every gamer's life easier. Like I said, I don't do buff bars, and I don't try to cheat some system or try to get around the mechanics. I try to play within the mechanics and within the constructs of the game. Once again, the devs just really do a great job. They give you the capability, different options on how to do things. And once again, in all of my years of gaming, I think there's, the devs in this game really go above and beyond. And I know the game has some issues with bugs, but once again, what game doesn't? But when we take a look at the dynamic content to this, the devs do a great job. So kudos, guys. Keep up the good work. You know, I honestly, it's probably one of the reasons I truly do love this game. They make crafted gear buyable at end game, and to me, this was always a huge thing in the past when I've ever played games. I'm like, what's the point in crafting when you can't do anything? Now, Vanguard actually had a unique system, kind of comparable to ESO, where you could actually obtain drop gear and upgrade it. The problem of it is there was never a 100% guarantee, and you did run the risk of actually breaking your gear and losing it forever. And when you were running not trials, but raids, it was really risky, but it was something that you really wanted to do because you wanted to have the best in slot. So, you know, that was a very fun game for me. Unfortunately, though, it did have its own problems. When we take a look at you know, those bugs were just, you know, there becomes a time where you're patient, and then the point where certain mechanics are just completely unplayable, and that, you know, Vanguard kind of fell in that hole. So it was sad, but it was really cool because when you went and you would go wood, you would actually not chop a log on the ground, you would actually chop the tree would fall down and you'd gather wood. So really cool concept for a game at, you know, in its time, but unfortunately it just didn't pan out. But once again, guys, this is what we're talking about here. This is how DPS should be. As you guys can see, all these effects are firing. You can see all these numbers procking. Okay, this isn't a glitch. This isn't like, you know, some kind of trick of the camera. And when you parse something like this, PC players, your DPS meter will increase significantly. And this is why I'm always saying, you know, twice more star, it gets the job done. But for me, it's not optimizing my build. So this does. This combination, these setups like this, I push out different gear. I have different gear for all of my players depending on what I'm doing. But when I'm actually in a trial run and I run setups like this, I actually push out a ton more DPS. So I quite enjoy it a lot. Always looking for something to kill here. Now it's funny because when you see people harvesting in Craglorn, they'll actually avoid all this stuff. Because you know it's because they're getting killed. They're getting their asses kicked. And I actually have no problem with any of the content in here. I mean, people are like, oh, it's only 110. Yeah, well, these guys hit pretty friggin' hard. I've seen 531s bite the farm on many occasions. And once again, it's because they're just spamming one AOE. They don't have self-heals up. I know I'm on the Stam Sork. It has self-heals on crit. Well, you know, think about this. Hurricane doesn't proc the critical surge, and neither does the Blade of Cloak. So the only thing that's actually proccing it is my Weaving and my Whirling Blades. My Whirling Blades will, you know, ineffectively heal me as that's proccing, because that's not a dot. So keep that in mind. But I definitely wanted to do some of these videos. I said I was going to do them, and I definitely wanted to put them out there, get it done, and show people. Now, once again, guys, keep in mind, man, every class can do this. If you can say, oh, it's only the Stam Sork that can do this, no, you're full of shit. If you watch my videos on my Nightblade, he's got layers. Also, my DK has layers, which is really nice. I love the DK. DK is probably one of the most interesting builds. It doesn't have the range capability as the Nightblade or the Sorcerer, but as far as dots and when it comes to layering, it is one of the most effective. And if you guys think it's the DPS for a Dragon Knight sucks, I'm sorry, you just are not playing that class right. Alright? I'm just gonna say that. Magic Dragon Knight can hold its own, guys. I'm sorry. Alright, so as you guys can see, this is pretty much it. This is how we layer AOE. If you have any questions or comments, just post below. I will try to get to them as quickly as possible. But, just remember, guys, increasing DPS is not spamming the same ability. It's in conjunction with what abilities are running in your rotation. In this game, that is applied. Okay, this is why we see timers and we see durations, and there's multiple effects going on, whether it's an AOE, whether it's a durated effect, if it has a crit capability. Endless Hail can crit. It's not a dot. Okay, Endless Hail isn't a dot. It's a reapplied effect. And what that's doing is that can crit. Okay, but Hurricane and Blade of Cloak are basically acting like dot effects, and those will not crit. Okay, so Critical Surge will not apply, and once again, that goes without saying. So you guys have to pay attention to understand, which are dots, what are not, and what you can layer. If it has a timer on it, if you're going through your skills and it says duration on it, you can utilize this in a layered effect, especially if it's an AOE. That's how you are layering. If it doesn't have a duration, which Whirling Blades doesn't, then it's not a dot at all, and this can be your span between your duration. So I always tell people, grab 2 to 3 durated effects, and then go ahead and grab one instant. Now, on my Nightblade, I actually don't use an instant. I use the Lightning Staff. This is why I use Lightning Staff, because when I'm doing a heavy attack, it does an AoE effect. Same thing with the two-handed sword. This is why I brought that up earlier, so you guys can actually, utilize this better in your rotation, or better off in your setup. But if you do have any questions or comments, post below. I do want to thank you all for watching, and once again and always, you have a nice day.